Okay, good evening to everyone. Sorry if we're slightly late. Thank you very much for being here, and thank you very much to Matteo Ragni who accepted our invitation. We are starting the first of four conferences dedicated to design with him. And there will be three more guests. You won't be doing all of these. So I said Matteo Ragni is for sure one of the most well-known and appreciated designers that have emerged in the Italian design panorama, from the year 2000, speaking about the new millennium, but he's actually working since a while before, actually. I want to use the title of an exhibition that was in the Montreal Culture Institute. Oh, Toronto, sorry, mistake here. Which lasted until January, which was called Matteo Ragni, Almost 20 Years of Design, because your first project produced of 1994. And therefore, the first journalists, criticals, and historians were really surprised about the thing. It's already 20 years that Ragni, no, actually, I don't want to use your expression, which I didn't hear, sorry, but is you're working and doing research and design. Well, Matteo will speak about his work and with the timings that he believes are the most adequate and more interesting for you who study industrial design. Well, the most interesting thing about Matteo's career in the last 20 years is the fact that he has passed from working only on product design. He now is working and passed on to art direction. It's a term which is a 360-degree term, which is hard to decline, but I believe that through your projects we can clearly understand what you're doing. Well, you are an architect, and probably this sensitivity of coordinating and integrating real well all the projects, well, it's probably due to your background. That's it. I do not want to steal any more time to your conference. Okay, good evening to all of you. Well, first of all, let me just introduce myself in a more operative manner. Well, I'm an architect. This is our building here in Milan. The symbol of Milan has been designed by Joe Punti, and this building is like our reference point, our benchmark, basically, until the new building of SPD, actually. But Joe Ponti, for me, it's a myth. I don't know if you have in your room maybe Britney Spears or some rock singer, maybe. Well, I didn't have in my room the picture of Joe Ponti, but actually for me, he has always been a very important reference point for my career as a designer. Well, he has been one of the first art directors, as we were saying, of history. He is not only an architect, a decorator, a designer, interior designer, graphic, with a skill of being almost a film director and protagonist of an entire cultural path. He has founded a magazine called TobeUs, and maybe some of you know this real well. Well, this drawing that I've done for an exhibition a few years ago, for FI, tells a bit my double identity, which, like Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde, where all architects want to be designer, all designers want to be architects. Some architect wants to be a graphic designers want to be web designer. Now, people are always trying to do something else beyond what has been their education. It is clear that when you are an architect, it's clear that you want to do design. Well, in the years of my education, I have met this man, Mandaroy. He is the father of rationalist architecture, and his mantra was less is more, and therefore all our professors and everyone said that you couldn't decorate, that the rigor and the rigidity had to be a piece of each project transferred in design. Like this pin here is the synthesis of what should be design, this paperclip. Because, of course, the form and is in service of function. A very, very cheap and banal object, and it's a reference for every designer. But there's another man who's a bit younger, even though if he looks as if he's pretty old in the last few years of his life. His name was Ettore Sozzas, and he's one of these people that we definitely bring in our backgrounds and heritage of design. He has designed all the first computers and typewriters for Olivetti. He definitely was a far-sighted art director, designer. Even though that word did not exist at his time, he was the founder of Memphis. And I love his work due to the fact that he used to say, you know, less is less. So, well, people said, well, who cares, you know, let's be tangible, less is less. And there's another hero that it's underestimated in the culture of design, and his name is MacGyver. I don't know if you remember, you know, the old series of the 80s. I mean, I was super fascinated by this guy with this hairstyling, which was incredible, like this... well, he used to have, like, with a famous... paperclip, he could do a bomb, construct anything, and therefore I just borrowed a sentence that I heard of James Irvine: do more with less. Well, I believe that if we should give a mantra to write on the walls of the cities, well, I believe that do more with less should be a good way of proceeding. Okay, well, here, every time I have to do the scene that the young designer that in the end of the 90s, when there was, you know, all these Milanese who discovered the pleasure of eating and drinking with aperitivo. Well, Giulio and Iacchetti and I, well, at the time he was my partner, friend, and like almost a brother. Well, we followed a theme that now it's definitely very straightforward, which is food design. I mean, food design now has been too trendy lately, but it's a theme that actually it's very important, especially thinking in occasion of our famous expo. We are always speaking about food. Well, which is one of the two main themes that we are carrying on. The other, you know exactly which one is. Well, this object that I always have with me, due to the fact that from the presentations, you don't really understand how big it is. It seems enormous, but in reality, it's an object which is, well, I brought it back because maybe so you can see it better. This is an object, 8 centimeters times 4, and it has been a cult object, even though, I mean, it might seem... I might be exaggerated, but this object had to solve a problem. The fact that we were saying before, right, do more with less. This company that in reality was not Alessi, Guzzini, well, they used to do catering, and they would organize parties for people of a certain level, you know, certain status, all fashion designers, all these Milanese, which are very rich. Well, and they had a problem to solve when they were organizing these aperitivos and these caterings. Well, basically they were using some silver, some crystal glasses and silver cutlery. With of course, they could not use plastic. At the time, there were no objects for food design. There was like the plastic plate, like picnic, and you know the broken, the forks that usually break, plastic forks. And you know, the ladies that were wearing mink furs, they were forgetting in their purse, in their Hermes, the bag, I don't know, the silver spoon, the silver fork and everything. And the ones that were not stolen had to be washed. And therefore, Daniela Danzi, who was the owner of this catering, well, she had experience in the past of tasting the world of design, working with De Lucchi, well, called some young designers, among which Julia and I, giving a brief which was very specific. Well, let's design some temporary objects like this new use of catering, and Julia and I had this idea. Now it seems a bit banal, actually, but maybe it was banal, of designing an object which was like a sort of souvenir to bring home. I mean, people had to steal it, and, you know, it's an excellent tool to not, you know, so the barman doesn't see you, you know, if you steal it, you just put it in your pocket. And this object has been like a cult object for all these evenings and aperitifs that we did when we were young. Julia and I used to go to all these aperitivos. Well, the nicest thing of seeing this object has become in the collection of has become a museum object because it's in the collection of MoMA and many others. And maybe you go to the house of someone you don't know and you see that in the box of sugar they use Moscardino. Well, it's an object that you bring with you, and therefore this for me it's another intrinsic value of design. We're speaking about sustainability, and I am a bit, I don't know, afraid of this word in some way. Or actually, it's sustainability is like austerity. Well, it's something that I don't know. If something is sustainable, you should not wax your armpits. You shouldn't wash because you're wasting water. Well, sustainability is something more. It's a greater value. Okay. Well, I don't really know if in English, well, my name, well, in English we can't translate it. My last name, Ragni, is like spider. Who wants like a last name, Spider, and people hate spiders. But the illumination came a few years ago when they invited me in Camera di Commercio in Milan, and the title was what you have seen before. Doing network and design, and I've understood why this is my name, and going back in a retrospective of my work, I've understood that I had to look at myself from far away, far off. These are some brands with which I have the occasion of working with, and these lines are some connections. It's like a sort of net, a web, that thanks to the work I have done, and a lot of work has been done among these brands together. The ones that have the most connections are not the biggest and the most the ones that pay me the most, let's say, but it's the ones I have the most feeling. Very frequently, I do this interconnection. I don't know if you invite someone to dinner and you invite another friend together, and they and another concept that is very, very nice, and I want you to remember, is the idea of generosity. So it's not something that is a synonym of design, and very frequently when there's not a lot of work, well, if you have a client which is as if he's a prey, you're like a lion, and you're rushing against your prey, right? And if there's another lion, you tend to have fights and cat fights because you want to eat that prey on your own. Well, I've got a different concept of design, and maybe we can go and look at it throughout this. This bottle, I have not designed it, unfortunately, but thank God, maybe, because I would have been dead by now. It was designed in 1934. It was Fortunato Depero, and some of you know him, and he has been one of the greatest futurists, Italian futurists, and he has had a great history, besides with futurism and with Campari. And the great innovation that has been made by him, and with the contribution of technicians of Campari, has been that of having done a monodose aperitivo. So you see it red like Campari. It has no label. And I mean, well, definitely anyone would like this. It has no label because the label is molded into the glass. And I believe it's sustainable, actually. You can recycle glass. And ready to use, great. These people of Campari, well, having seen that this young designer had designed together with his friend Giulio this Moscardino, that at a certain point also became red for Campari, well, they have said, well, what we have to just try to give a new life to this concept of aperitivo. So since this object is so iconic in finger food and aperitivo, well, they called me, and that was pretty rare, actually, that a brand like Campari calls a designer which is totally outside of the glamorous world. And this is the correct moment, the correct idea, and the correct company. That's the 3 rules of success. I do not know if it's something that you can share, and this is actually, though, my point of view. Doing an object of this kind nowadays would be totally unabsorbed. We're in a bulimia of food design now that no one would ever notice this. When in 2009 they called me, they wanted to celebrate the 100 years of futurism, and therefore we have done this event in Salone del Mobile in the area of Tortona. And as a designer, because I'm architect, but I'm ever done any apartment, actually, maybe a few, but I don't really want to talk about those actually. And you have to enhance the treasure that you have. You have an artwork here, which is, yes, in museums, but when you go to a bar and you call and you say, hey, I want a Camparisoda, well, what does he do? He takes the tap off and serves it, and the bottle, he just throws it in glass. Well, I said, let's try, to climb and up on the shoulders of giants, and I have designed this object called Click in honor of Achille Castiglioni. And this object is what? Well, it just makes the life of the product of the bottle become like a longer life. Now there's the top here of the... But in some way, this becomes a glass. If Depero in 32 had designed this bottle, turning the martini and putting a top on it, well, after 80 years, I have basically turned him around in his tomb, probably doing this, and I have transformed this into the base for our glass. Well, this small gesture has done nothing else but also creating a new liturgy, a new gesture in doing aperitivo and doing the cheers. Well, all with glass, it's a nice sound. With plastic, I mean, it's sad, it doesn't really sound nice. And therefore, this gesture, I don't know, people like to do cheers with this strange glass. And the nice thing is that during the Salone del Mobile, seeing people that were bringing both the bottle and the glass in their pockets. Because, of course, you wash it, and it's a plastic material which is rigid. You can wash it in your dishwasher. And we have done this inventor that you click it on the base of the bottle. Well, they said, okay, do a lounge, please, for distributing Camparisoda. And something that could be useful for your future or that of designer, please don't stop to the brief that the company gives you. But they give you a brief, but they don't know that you can give them even more, or you can show them that they have some other needs. At least to me it works, or sometimes, but at least trying. This is like the famous lounge that we have designed for Salone del Mobile for them. It's a photographic limbo. You'd enter here and you'd totally lose the perception of space. You had no reference points. You drink a bit of Camparisoda, and if you didn't feel sick that evening, well... And there was this great icon. It's like a lighthouse, and it was pulsing like a heart. And it would emphasize the fact that Camparisoda is the only unique monodose drink. This is the original. Do not get the Sambiter with the Giugiaro bottle, okay? Because it's a copy. This is the original. And around the city, there were these types of towers with some lights on top of them. Unfortunately, we haven't shot any picture. Here, you could enter. Here, there were some seats, and you would enter here, and there was a sensor of proximity. And when you got there, there was a voice that was telling you some anecdotes on design, on aperitivo, on the history of aperitivo, the spritz. Well, so you'd enter there, and you had like a sort of divine light, and you'd learn something about aperitivo. And if there was an interesting girl there, it was a way of saying, hey, you know that aperitivo was invented by so-and-so, and you could have, how Italians try to be tacky sometimes with girls. Well, anytime, this is another one, close to the Armani, it's the end of Monte Napoleone. Well, that was the Salone del Mobile, the most rainy ever. Well, this is the next year after, in Triennale, there's a park close to the Triennale, and there was a bar all made in wood of Michele De Lucchi. Well, I have destroyed it with all these red things, basically, and I've made a bar, and then we've did a book with Corraini, which is an editor, a book which is designed, which is very nice. When you open this, there is this man drinking, and while you open it, he keeps on drinking. With inside some illustration done by Steven Guarnaccia. He is a great American illustrator that this should be me, actually, with the click, and I'm doing a chin-chin with Munari because he's my spiritual master. And we have done a series of different works stolen by the world of graphics with some textures, which are nothing else. Well, here you can't see it real well, but this is a sort of labyrinth. And here there's the top and the icon of the bottle, and we have recuperated the bottle also for the 80 years in 2012, and they asked me to redesign the bottle. And I have yelled, no, but are you crazy? I will not design any other bottle. Then, of course, we all have to earn money and eat, right? And feed our children. And if I don't do it, someone else will design it. And I don't know, the Giugiaro or Pininfarina that just do their aerodynamic stuff and will destroy the history of Camparisoda. So I said, okay, I will do it, but I will not change the icon. This is a bottle we have designed. We have just put it like a ceremony evening wear. The bottle that you see is not this one. This one lasted 1 year in 2012. We have basically recuperated that famous texture that you saw before, putting it on the skin of the bottle. You know, these bottles always have this, like, I don't know, it's like goosebumps. When you touch this Camparisoda bottle, it's like cellulite or goosebumps. And the nicest surprise that seeing this bottle close to the bottle before, this one was more red and couldn't understand why. And then someone who has studied said that the refraction of light and the diamond cuts, and I got some compliments for that, but it was just a coincidence. This bottle is more red than the others. And in 2010, Campari was celebrating the 150 years. I'm specialized in celebrations, so any kind of wedding, I can come, any kind of event, I will do a project for you. And we have thought that to celebrate the 150 years of a brand like Campari, which has always been farsighted and looked towards the future, it was much better to celebrate the future rather than the past. And therefore, the slogan here, which is very advertising, Camparisoda 2260 with a marvelous future. Here, there is a Camparisoda that has landed onto Mars. And in this case, we have redesigned the bar in Triennale. It has been there for 3 years, and therefore this is another idea of sustainability in the sense that projects of Salone del Mobile, I'm not really concerned. 1 week, you put a lot of money, you spend a lot of money, and then in the long run, everything goes in the trash. This project lasted 3 seasons, 3 years, and the first thing we have done was actually an homage to ladies, but men as well. Well, you all know that Bonton says that when you sit in a restaurant, bar, or wherever, men have to give the best side of the view to the lady, right? Which usually is facing the landscape, the lake, or whatever. And every time you always have to look at the barman, and we have to stare at the wall, usually as men, right? And therefore, with this small game of mirrors, we have covered all the columns with a game of mirrors, and therefore also men can have a chance of seeing the park on the other side. Then we have realized that this game of mirrors was favoring also the visions of the décolleté of the lady on the other table. And the nice thing is that even if the bar was sort of empty, it always seems as if it was full because there were a lot of repetitions of refractions, a bit like Fantozzi, those of you who know Fantozzi. Then we have also designed the tables and these chairs. Well, I don't really like to design chairs because now it's a coincidence, though, but I'm the artistic director of a brand that does chairs. I have designed only one chair for now, which is this one. I have designed it, and it's so uncomfortable, actually, the only one I've designed, but I wanted it to be uncomfortable. It's uncomfortable due to the fact that the futurist aperitivo, it's an aperitivo that you just drink and go and leave. Actually, maybe the chair is like leaning in front. You see that it's totally designed. It looks like the hump of the donkey. This is how you call it, basically. And this is the bar in the evening, and there was a table to play, you spin the bottle. I mean, you think I'm a maniac now and a sexual maniac, but in reality, this is a classic time to just pass around the aperitivo and the snacks. But I like the fact that people could play around with. And this man who is in pose right here, see how plastic he is and how futuristic he is. Well, working with Campari was real nice because you had a chance of having a lot of space, and therefore you could do more or less what you wanted. And for these 150 years, we designed these cones. They look like telescopes to look at the future because, of course, the future is in 150 years. And there were 10 telescopes. They were called the 10 doors. And my wife, who writes much better than I do, and that's her job actually, she wrote inside 10 poems, all linked to a different theme. There was the door facing food, facing fertility, water, wellness, and the last was the great return. That for some of you might mean death. We actually think that there's a rebirth and a recycle. Well, these telescopes were very particular because to see what you had to read inside, you had to put the head, and that's like the Victorian collar, right? You know how you have to give dogs that when they have surgery so they don't lick their wounds? Well, basically, it's the same thing. You had to stick your head in that to read. You'd enter your world, and basically reading these sentences out loud, everything was like echoing inside those tubes. We have brought this in the Campari headquarters. I'll go a bit faster or else well, this rather, since Campari has always thought of the future, the talents and young ones, I have always thought this and the frustration of young designers that do not have some new jobs. They never can express themselves at their best because they don't have contacts with brands. So I gave like a sort of help to the young designers, and we have done 5 of these capsules. We call them talent capsules, that in the evening they were tables to drink aperitivo, but during the day they could be rented or reserved. I reserves the capsule number 2 because you know how in Triennale people go there to do meetings and see friends and do a business meeting. It's like an office open air. And that lasted all summer, from April to October. And then in the evening, we'd use it to do aperitivo, various events. Campari, I believe it's finished. This is a project. This is my studio. Well, at a certain point in 2012, after we have designed the bottle of the 80 years of Campari, I had the feel that I wanted young designers to work in my studio. Like I said, hey, I'll go buy my cigarettes and never come back. So basically I did the same thing. In 1 week we went to a studio under my house, and I left this studio to 7 designers, but there was also a girl who did fashion design and a graphic designer. These are the keys of my studio. Use it. In 1 year I'll see you. In exchange, you shouldn't give me anything. In exchange, I will just bring here some brands with some brief of projects, and you will have the possibility of working with them. So substantially, the game is real easy, rather than having me pay a rent like you do with the co-working, which is very trendy. Hello? Well, in the companies, I said, well, you have to adopt a designer. So basically you're paying because this designer can live one life without having the anxiety of paying a rent. This lasted 1 year. We have worked substantially with 2 brands. One which is Campari. We've done a workshop with Campari for the future of aperitivo, and 2 of these designers have developed this project. They have been paid by Campari, actually. It has worked real well. Another here, see, it's a talent that departs, right? The departures at so-and-so. Also working in companies. And here there is also the visions and everything that he has. The I becomes us. Well, the concept of working together, but in an environment rich of stimuli. And here, the aperitivo of these designers. Now, I'm also a designer, besides the various other things. I do design for different companies, like Danese. It's a brand that I really liked a lot, because Bruno Munari, besides the various Enzo Mari, excuse me, which has then purchased by the Artemide Group. Well, I really liked to work with an obsession of very many designers. Well, designers really want to put a lot of functions in one unique object. They don't want a lamp to be a light and that's it. Usually the light is the last thing they think of. You have to put like this double function. And taking a step behind, well, this man, you have a classroom called Bruno Munari. Well, Bruno Munari in the 50s, when Italy had to be constructed, what did he do? He did sculptures for traveling. He did some things that were useless in terms of function, but useful for the wellness of people. Therefore, with this technology that Munari kept on using, I have transferred in this object that it might seem just a lamp. At the same time, it's like a shelf stopper for the books. During the day, a lamp, it's an object that you don't really need. So at least if we put some books there close by, it holds the books on the shelf up straight. And in the evening, you can read a book with the light of that lamp. And therefore, the light is useful for sustaining the books. Then there was the version, the applique, which is the one which is sold much more, because you all know that in the hospitalities, if you, as designer in the contract, exactly, if you are a designer and you want to sell a lamp in the contract, it has to be an applique. Because in a hotel, you know how many applique, the bedrooms, there's at least 2 in the hallways, in the entrance. So do appliques for contract. Well, I wanted to maintain like this small tail, right, that we have, that left over tail in our back, in our spinal cord, and here you could put the menu or the message or whatever. And the first detail of this lamp, which is pretty smart, the fact of not wasting any kind of material, because from one unique cut, everything is just inside of it. And therefore, there is one central binding, and that's it. This is an object that hasn't had a lot of success. I should write unsuccessful here. Because Fiam, which is an Italian brand that works with glass, they had a brand called Livit. And they would sell, this is 2006, and there was the boom of televisions, bigger and bigger and bigger. You know, you go to Media World, and there's these television that now it's as big as a house. And they told me, we need to produce some television holders, basically. I didn't even have a television at home, but, you know, you're crazy. But the future is in video projection, you know. Now, the projector costs a lot. In the future, it costs less. We will all have our own projector. We won't need nothing else but a white wall on which we can project. But the houses now don't have white walls. They're all full of stuff, right? So the intuition was that of having an object, a double function. When I need the projector, I pull that down and it comes down. And this object, it was strange, you know. In the market, there was nothing similar. And I thought, I said, let's do it, let's not do it. Is there a market for this? Well, in the end, they patented this all around the world and all planets, because they thought we've discovered an incredible market. In reality, it had a lot of success at the beginning. But the problem was that every month, technologies advance, televisions become bigger and bigger, the projectors cost less, but also television costs less, but aluminum costs more and more. The raw material, the hard material. So we found ourselves to having a shelf with aluminum extruded, 700 euros this thing, 2 meters. 700 euros. for a projector, 1,000 euros, and with 800 you have 2,000 channels and you can just hang it onto the wall. And after a while they said, hey, you know, bye. If someone wants it, I mean, there's on sale, okay? Anyway, since there are very many journalists that still define me as a young designer, and thank God Ali said that I'm not young anymore, because now I'm heading towards andropausa. Well, actually, at a certain point, I felt a bit, I don't know, I was uncomfortable, because every time I used to go to these brands, it seems I had less years than the ones I really have. And, oh, okay, yes, okay, you are the one of Moscardino, so you do the things that laugh, you know, the Moscardino here. And every time I used to go to a brand, well, everyone thought, okay, please design something, hey, you, like, you know, like kids, you know, like I do with my kids. I say, hey, draw, you know, draw your mommy here. But actually, I wanted to be abandon this idea of this eternal Peter Pan. But journalists were not helping me because, of course, they were still in the idea that Giulio and I were like partners in life as well, and that we were linked to this world of food design and ridiculous stuff. And at the same time, after having done a lot of Sons and Daughters, I said, now I will go to the most classic company ever, Poltrona Frau. I mean, the name itself, it's scary. I mean, they ask you some money just for entering because you breathe in their store, right? And they say, well, okay, I go to Poltrona Frau and I say, I want an interview. I do not know if I'm telling you something which is banal, but actually I cannot stand, just like all of you, the idea of sending emails with the spam, you know, that you send usually, besides, you know, offering, you know, I have a car, who cares, you know, I mean, I'm willing to do anything to work. I'll send you my presentation, my portfolios, files and files without even knowing who you're sending them to. Or just copying my kind architect, I'm searching for a job, and you see that he didn't send it only to you, they send it to a list, which is that of interni, so everyone have that in the database, and you feel unique, and I don't even answer to this guy. So I want an interview with the responsible of Poltrona Frau and this engineer Iacchetti, who also listened to me. He was very, very kind. And I went to show him my works, and at the real beginning he said, oh yeah, the Moscardino, a nice guy. But then I went back after a month, after having met him, and I presented this object that now you don't even understand what it is. I'll show it to you. You can't understand. This, like this, do you understand? Like this, better? Well, this is, it's a table called Nymphea. Well, designing a sofa for Poltrona Frau, there's a list from here to, I don't know, the floor. Because, of course, everyone does Poltrona Frau. They do armchairs and couches, sofas, and everything, right? And so I was a bit smart. I said, what are they missing? What are they lacking in their catalog? In reality, if you go and look, they aren't a lot of side tables, right? And the only one is probably this one, and then there's a poof. And this thing they've liked, because in fact, also in stores, they, in front of a sofa, having a table where you can put your art magazines, because the rich lady always has a Picasso book, right? That of Taschen that costs 50 euros. They're right in front of her sofa, right? It's a volume. Well, something I have done was doing something against the function. So, first of all, we've done this bumper around of it, all padded in leather. Because when you stand up, you know, from the sofa, every time you hit the corner of the table there, of the side table. So, you know, with children and everything, and the babysitters, and I mean, we need to pay the insurance. So a nice bumper here, so actually it gives it a lightness. And then this tabletop, we want to do it in Korean and what? Let's do it in leather. So if you ask your mom if she would ever purchase this table with the leather tabletop, are you crazy? If we put a coffee cup or Pringles or whatever, it's going to get a stain and I will trash it. But in reality, this type of target, and this is why I said the right project for the right brand, because this project for IKEA is not okay, but for Poltrona Frau it works. due to the fact that you put no coffee, because you have, I don't know, a tray in silver, you put no coffee, you put nothing, just your art book there on it. This is another table that originates from the idea of bon ton, but let's go on. Well, from Poltronatao to Haiti, and it's always wood, but all of a sudden, when there was that mess in Haiti and they've lost everything, poor them, well, a colleague of mine, Claudio Lark, did like a contest between friends. Let's do some tables from the Escuelitas in Haiti, and we did like a small contest with 10 designers, and to do a product which is not beautiful to publish. It was then published, but actually it was like a guideline for the self-construction for developing countries. Let's not do the table of Poltronafrau, but the carpenter just with a saw can actually realize this for the schools. And therefore we've designed this. It was realized also. It's a table that the concept is that of the fact that you can pile them up just like, you know, the carts in the supermarket, and therefore this creates an idea of circularity. So the schools are not as beautiful as this one, okay? So they are basically some roofs with some just ground, and therefore there's no flooring, and they, you know, on one side they play, on the other side they sleep, on the other side they draw. Let's go on. What time is it? Should I finish? Well, this is a brand called Lawrence. It's one of the Italian brands that does watches, and they call me up, the owner of this company, and she says, hey, listen, can you do a design of a watch? What does it mean I have to do the restyling? I mean, it means that you have to design a watch, okay? So basically, I don't wear watches that much. I think it's something a bit useless. I mean, among you young ones, how many have a watch? Who uses a watch? 1, 2? Oh, well, almost half of you. But I see some, you know, like the Casio gold. It's a bit vintage, right? It's a, you know, heritage of the 80s, like the one with the calculator, the Casio there. There are some objects that you want to see at what time it is. You take your phone, you press it. It's, oh my God, it's 7:30. And therefore, I have proposed this company to do a watch with no hands, right? That hour hand or minute hand. And they said no. So the only thing that I could tell them is tell them about this project, but I know and you know, because people, when they buy this watch, they buy it just because they like it or don't like it. But I like the idea of time that goes just like in a bicycle track, the idea of sustainability, moving around in bicycle, all those hipster stuff. Well, this is a quadroid, a shape... it's just between the circle and the square, because I've asked them, what is the shape that you sell the most, you know, because of course, as designers, we want royalties, right? And therefore he says, the round one, the square doesn't go. But I like the squared one, so I said I'd do half and half. So I've done the quadrant, round inside, and then the outside is squared, I hyperellipse. This is the famous parabolic curve of Vigorelli. It's called Vigorelli, in fact, this watch, because it's a famous bicycle track in Milano. Fireplaces, but who cares? And then I also have to, I like to work with some brands which are not hit by the world of design. If you have wallpaper at home, you tell me yes or no. No, you don't have wallpaper at home, right? That's old guys, isn't it? No. Okay, well, basically this brand is 50 years old, has celebrated with us their 50 years. And we have realized that the target of this company is from 25 to 35 years. It's not the idea of the wallpaper that I had at home with a carpet and having this wallpaper all over, but it's actually the murales. We've done a book and we've organized some events where these are very many designers. Here there's a young designers, and here there were Paola Navone, Italo Lupi, Acchetti, Grandi, and then I invited myself as well. I was free, so I invited myself. I designed some wallpapers as well. And each one of the designers designed a world of wallpapers, which is pretty fun. I advise you to actually enter this world. And here the connection with Camparisoda, we have done the bar there. Well, a theme that I like a lot, is there some car designers here in this classroom? Car design? No? Audi? No? Some car designer? No. Why aren't car designers here? Oh, okay. You don't know what they're losing. I mean, I'll show you some toy cars. This is my little family of designer who has carta da parati, which is a wallpaper. And what happens when a designer becomes a father? Look at this kid, poor kid. When the second one is born, the grandmother, she buys these small little toy cars. I bring a little toy, brings them to this small one because or else that one would eat them up. And this kid, after the grandmother left 10 minutes, says, "Hey, Dad, can you fix it?" And I said, "Hey, come on, it's new. You broke it already." Well, you know, they love to break things. So a kid like this asks, "Hey, can you fix it?" Oh, my God, I mean, you really have to fix it. So either what do? You go to the grandmother and hit her and say, "Stop buying these toy cars," or else your family will be destroyed, or else as a designer, what do? You know, I will do just like Enzo Mari used to do in Made 05 magazine. I said, "Hey, grandmothers all over the world, please, I want that this year you give some long-lasting toys to your nephews." So I did a rendering of a car here that, you know, see, it's one piece. And after this thing here, one incredible thing's happened, because besides the fact that my colleagues and friends said, "Hey, but why don't you design these, you know, wooden cars?" And I received some emails from people who said, "Hey, but do you sell these?" No, I don't sell these. Anyway, I decided, and I went to the Chamber of Commerce. I then registered this trademark, TobeUs. TobeUs. TobeUs is to be us. To be used. Well, two hands are not enough. My friends gave me some illustrations, which are the idea of these objects, right? So the kid, see, he's happy, plays with these toy cars. Then in the evening, just like all kids, very, very neat, put those back in the drawer. In the drawer, there's all the various things, and the wood used for this is it's a wood which is very, very, it has a good fragrance. Now, I don't know if you can smell it. Either I throw it to you or someone stand up, please, and come and pick it up. So you can smell it, because it's a very, it's a lemon tree in Lebanon. So the kid plays with it. And then when he becomes a dad, what does he do? See, now he grew up. He's a father now. And gives it to his own son. And then his son, he doesn't really care and throws it into the fireplace. But then it's okay, you know, it's all a cycle. We were speaking about the fact of the internal return. So I said, but today, can a brand produce still in Italy objects of value that have a storytelling, that have something to say, produced with passion, an artisan that's paid the right amount, not, you know, taking advantage of his work with a wood that has fragrance and activating our smelling sense. And, you know, we have like chewing gum and deodorants, and I mean, come on. So when we go in the metro, besides some cases on the 90 bus, we smell all the fragrance of people wearing, but of objects we can't really smell it, right? When objects are made in wood, they're always painted, and I wanted to leave it like this, just in wood with no paint whatsoever, because we give this kit, besides, you know, a small, you know, grandmothers have to give this as a present, and there's a small message, and then we give them this sandpaper, because this object has to be painted and drawn and then canceled, and then you can draw it over again, and going ahead in the years, in 15 years, that will be a sports car. Oh, and now it's and also designing this car is a game. You see the rules. and then we did the first series. Well, all these originate from one unique block, which is like the starting block, and then with a simple cut, you have all the various models of them. Well, some I've designed. These are romantic, the sedan, this is Giulio Liacchetti, this is the van, and this is Edoardo Fioravanti. He did a small pickup for dolls and everything. Kids love that. The packaging, it's this, you've seen it's changed. And the cool thing is, even if they're all identical, you may choose the veins, you know, you're choosing like the digital fingerprint of your car. But another thing is that you have smelled it, right? When you go to the market and buy the melon, what do? You know, your melon is, you know, you have to smell it, right? To see if it's good. And today, now, melons don't smell like anything today, but choosing them by smelling and by touching them. Not happy, this is a very nice, beautiful picture of Max Romer. The only photographers in the world to show this skin of wood. Incredible. Well, this car, I have designed this, it's a fake, because I needed this for an auction. Sometimes we do things that are an auction that was for charity. And in 2008, not happy, I said I need to involve in this sort of manifesto the grandfathers, designers. So I went to knock at the various doors of these men. Some of them you should know. These are the grandfathers before the war, and therefore Alessandro Mendini, Alessandro Guerriero, Andrea Branzi, Mario Bellini, Italo Lupi. And I asked them, hey, please, give me a line. And this generosity is definitely coming back, and nice things come back to you, okay? What goes around comes around. And therefore all of them said, yes, I will do it, yes. They're all very, very happy. Italo Lupi said, hey, but I want to do the truck of the firemen's. Okay. Well, the only one that I called and said no, and that now he's laughing because he knows already. And he's another master of design. He's a great master of design, but he has a terrible character. And he's always, and we all know who he is. And later, I tell you, it's Insomari. He said, no, if I do it, I want to be paid because I'm Insomari. And if I do it, the others should not do it. And I said, but I have invited them, you know. So let's say this hole here is Insomari. Sooner or later, he will draw one for me. Here are the faces. And De Lucchi is not a grandfather, actually. But when I have designed the bar of Triennale, I showed him the project because we were going to do a project very close over his bar. And so to thank him of his time, I gave him a cart, and he said, you know, he loves wood. And he says, can I do one? And I said, yes, of course. And he has a beard, you know, he looks like a grandfather anyways. So we've done all this campaign. And not happy, because of course designers are never happy. And it was 2010, and in 2012 I said, well, I want to do 100% TobeUs, and well, it has to be a virus all around the world. I give every single designer this, and all these 100 designers need to give me a line. Well, actually, something very, very strange. These are the 100 lines all together. See, this one is the one that we've called the collective. The union of all these lines does a car. See, here. Here, there's like an area where more lines arrive. This is the collective. The sponsor. In reality, I was in Alessi for other reasons, and then all of a sudden I pull out the car and I show Alberto Alessi. Well, I said, hey, help me out. You know, I want to go to Fiat and ask them to sponsor this exhibition that I have in mind. Because years ago, Fiat and Alessi have done a co-branding like we used to do now. And they did Panda, designed by Giovannoni, which I believe that was an incredible period. You see only 3 around. Maybe it's all Giovannoni who bought them. Or it was not a success in terms of sales, but it was a mediatic success. And Alberto Alessi thought about one day, hey, listen, no, I don't give you the contact of Fiat because they will ruin everything. How much does the exhibition cost? You know, entrepreneur, I will sponsor it. It will never happen in my life. I will always say this also to my nephews and nieces and everything. It will never happen that a brand in which you don't ask them, they say, hey, listen, I have this amount of money to give you. Because they saw the power of the involvement of this. I must say that there's only one Alessi in the world. Well, and Corraini, which is an editor in Mantova, very close to the world of design, said, hey, listen, I will do the book. All for free. And then we've done this exhibition called 100% TobeUs. 10 euros. I have no royalties on this book, okay? And this is science and technology. This is a very happy kid playing. We did the inauguration with all these partners, technicians. The museum hosted us. Essence, that is another brand that has done all the part of merchandising these. Giannelli and Volpe has done also a wallpaper for children. Oh, why is this here? Well, TobeUs is an exhibition manifesto that carries on throughout the years and time. And in time, we went to Milano. We've done Toronto last year with other 10 designers in Toronto, Canadian designers. And we have used the red pine tree. And we have gone to ICFF in New York and Brooklyn as well. Then we went to Bolzano. From New York and Bolzano, it takes a second, you know. And there is this design faculty one day all cutting, and we brought the exhibition 100% TobeUs, and we have hidden among the various cars of the designers, the cars of students. I must say that sometimes the ones of the students were even more beautiful. This I want to tell you because this man that at the time was the minister of economy, finance, or whatever, a minister of something. And in 2008, you know, there was a great crisis, right? And this guy was pretty scared and freaking out for this crisis. And what happens, I go to a conference, like the one of the Chamber of Commerce in Friuli in the north of Italy, right side of Italy, where there is that famous triangle of the chair, right? Where 50% of all the chairs were produced there in Manzano or in Udine. And they invite me to do a conference of how to exit and finish the crisis. It's not even the start, and I mean, it's 2009. Let's wait, you know, the crisis had to. And I do present my works like I always do, and I say, hey, listen, I haven't never designed a chair in my time. At that time, I didn't even design the Campari one, but I tell you what is my design attitude. And I tell you what I do, the cars and everything. At the end of the conference, well, this guy comes up to me, this sort of, this is a car that, excuse me, no, this is a tree that looks like a heart. And this looks like Jean Reno. This guy says, he introduces to me, he said, hey, listen, I'm a carpenter. When does a carpenter says, hi, I'm a carpenter? They usually tell you, hey, you know, I have a company that works in furnishing, and I am specialized in, you know, I have a Audi Q10 and I have money. But he said, hey, listen, I'm a carpenter. And I said, okay, please tell me. You know, we were there and having this aperitivo with no Moscardino. And he says, hey, I've been really surprised by this project of TobeUs, and I have a secret project. It's a few years that I am thinking of this project, but I want to understand how can we carry on this project, because, you know, I'm a terracist. He was producing all these frames for those who produce actually chairs. So he didn't really have his own project. He says, hey, listen, this is like, I don't know, he looks like the father of Pinocchio. These are, what are these? You know, these I have patented with all the money I have in the eyewear, the idea of combining wood and aluminum together. And I have designed these, but they look like a ski mask, you know. It's those things that they do underdeveloped cities, you know. Well, I like the idea of doing a wood and aluminum eyewear. So we started talking, and he asked me first, and showing me this, he says, hey, listen, but I've got an idea, but I'm afraid that they steal it to me. You always have this idea, I have this idea, but if I tell someone, maybe they steal my idea, and then he will make money and I won't. How can I avoid him to steal my idea? I said, hey, listen, keep it in your drawer. No one will steal it. And in a few years, someone has the same idea, they do it, and you will eat your elbows. I will come and meet you in the studio, and we became friends and everything. So with different kinds of technologies like those of the Flintstones and those of some technologies, he was the first one in 92 of having these specific experimental machine, and he said that banks didn't give him money to do this and buy this because banks did not know what it was. And they've done a brand together, Vui, which is with the technologies of chairs, we started producing some eyewear that we're performing because they're very light, and besides other typologies of eyewear, they weigh just very little, 10 grams, and they have this characteristics that they have no bindings on the sides, no joints. And they say, how can you close them? No, well, but I never close them. I always wear them. I would close them only in the evening because I can't see anything without them. I put them here on my nose, and in the evening I put them there. Clearly, if you cannot see, you put a chain maybe. But the idea of having these very, very light glasses makes it flexible, and usually the wooden glasses cannot make them flexible. The aluminum together make them flexible. Then we have worked with engined wood. It's a specific wood which is very sustainable because it's poplar wood, and they are laminated, a lot of different layers, and they do a sort of cube which is then cut into pieces, and with some chromias which are incredible. And as designers, we're always very ignorant, and we never want to experiment, and therefore I had a carpenter tell me all these things. Thanks to this, I must say that various different models and different designs, they're colorful inside, outside, whatever. We had so much fun doing and designing all these different models, and the interesting thing that thanks to the contact that I've had with Loiano Mattellone, well, he gave the eyewear to this brand that was supplying wood and said, hey, the marketing director, hey, have these glasses. This is your wood. What do these guys do? I mean, we do chairs, doors, floors, furniture with our wood. Look at what they have done. And so he says, I want to speak with this designer. And so I went in Modigliano, I don't know, in the hills in Tuscany and Emilia. And just to say things just briefly, thanks to this contact, I have started working with Alpi because we have them done this rainbow wood that we have used in the eyewear inside and outside. Now these, yes, because since we live in Milan, everything is gray. So with these, see, this is the point of view. I always see the sun, and I'm much happier than all the others because with this secret that no one knows, because I always see the rainbow also when it rains. This is the picture that I like to show you, not to show off, but I like to show off a bit. But in 2012, there is every year the President of the Republic gives the first prizes of innovation, right? And from the title, you feel very, very cool. So we went to Rome together with Loiano because they were prizing 3 companies, and one of the 3 companies was Vui, and that was more in 3 years. See how I hold this prize. Horrible prize, but okay. Diana and I, well, I never use a tie, and he never uses it as well. Doriano, I mean, puts it twice in his life, one for his wedding and one for this event. And in fact, you can really tell that he's a bit vintage. Well, actually, I married a bit later, and mine is more neutral and more contemporary. But here, the 12th of June, 2012, no, Napolitano is not there. It's these 2 guys that some of you maybe know them. I don't even know their names. I forgot. But these guys were representing Napolitano. Well, they said, hey, we give you the prize. See how fast, see? Tick, tick. I took the prize and left. Because Napolitano was with his wife, Cleo, looking at the Europeans soccer in Poland. I said, hey, listen, when you have to give me the prize, go another day. Don't. I was felt really pissed for that. But besides that, well, this brand that does wood, designers don't do only small objects. They work with brands that work in materials. I really like to work with materials. And these very nice icons made for a great master of communication, which is back there. He's like Michelangelo Petralizzi. Hi, I'm lasering him now. Because the nice part of working with companies is that designers shouldn't do everything. It's the pleasure of working with other competent people with which you can do have a beer sometime, and it's the empathy that makes things different. It's not the fact that you're famous or not. Well, the whole production here, see how you can obtain this trunk. I don't really want to do any lesson on materials now, but okay, look how incredible this wood is dyed and colored with some aniline, like the same varnish and paints and dyes that are used for fabrics. And in fact, we have designed some new woods. Designing wood, I think it's something, I don't know, the climax of design. Because designers want to design everything, and designing nature is actually something a bit perverse. Because designing a fingerprint of wood, well, I think it's incredible. I was very exalted by this, but now, nature in some way rebels itself and imitates men, and therefore wood is imitating all the various fabrics, and here we see the pinstripes and the tooth hound and the zigzags. I don't need to sell wood. Do you need some wood? Do you guys need wood? No? Okay, for your projects? This is like snakeskin with Michelangelo. We've done all this part linked to this brand that was suffering. It was a brand that was 100 years of history, and therefore we have redone the corporative invitation and everything. And in Corso Garibaldi we have organized an event called Alpi Atelier. There's some rendering and stuff. It was the idea of treating wood as if it was a great tailoring of haute couture, and this wood can allow you to be like a tailored, specialized for furniture, objects, particular, and so on. And therefore, the language was totally different. These works. There were, of course, the eyewear. People wanted to buy the eyewear. No, we're here selling something else. Wood. Anyway, here there's. Okay, I go fast now because I believe the time is over, actually. I want to know if you're still alive and awake. Here we have done several other projects. Well, I'm the architect who wants to do a bit of everything. We have done a showroom in New York, one in Moscow, one in Milan, and we have recreated some small environments, very neutral, with some furnishing. Trade fairs in China, Milano, with all these ideas of the tailoring of wood. We have done these types of leaves that are some diffusers that are phono-absorbent, and the exhibitors of wood. And then I would just finish with this. We have done a very nice procedure, and it was an event that has lasted 2 years during the Salone del Mobile, and we gave the city of Milan some benches, and how you all know, designers say, hey, but let's change these benches and let's make them become wood as if they look like fabric. And they were for 2 years in Corso Garibaldi, and they're still there. They were not vandalized because people think that it's an object to be respected. This is very nice. See, here there's a girl with a kid, and here, eating ice cream, and okay, I think that's it. So if you want to ask some questions, we have time for questions. Designing wood, co. Too long, too long. There's this guy here while we're putting this, and he sat down on it. We were fixing it. I mean, that's a bench that people really want to sit on. Either he was very, very tired. It was 6 o'clock in the morning, and he had to sit in that bench that we were fixing and setting. So they were taking the pictures, and he just sat down. I mean, he was not paid to sit there, okay? So he really appreciated probably the chrome, the bench and stuff. So in the Salone del Mobile, we worked with and designed some handles with some wooden inserts, tables, and the wood is used together with another brand called Tonelli, and we have designed some things linked to the world of wood and glass and other materials linked and bonded. This is a company that we follow as an art direction as a contract chair. We work with superstars and young designers. And this was Salone del Mobile, a small house on materials. But okay, this is a bed. Very frequently, my wife says, let's change our bed. And I say, hey, listen, I don't want to change things at work. We have an IKEA bed that has to last 2 years, and we have it 13 years, and it doesn't break. And therefore I said, hey, listen, the only way that I change the bed, I will design a new bed. So we have the company have it, and you will have a new bed. And in fact, I called a brand that said, hey, listen, I have a problem. I need to design a new bed for my wife. And all designers want to design everything for themselves. And therefore I've designed this bed for the Salone del Mobile for a company that does some padded, soft beds, and it's the first time they've experimented wood, and I think it was something pretty interesting to do, and not always following the same kind of trend. What do they always do? Padded. Okay, I present not a padded. Present something different. Maybe they like it. Okay. In English, yes, for sure. Sì, sì, sì. Le rivoluzioni vanno. So revolutions have to be done without anyone to notice. Well, I'm totally against this star system where people have to yell and have to be bizarre and crazy and sometimes I wear something bizarre, but actually not on purpose. And this is something that Munari was mentioning. Well, when someone points at the stars, the stupid looks at the finger rather than the star. Okay, that's it. I'm finished. Thank you. Do we have 5 more minutes? Don't steal the car. I need to give it to Fusetti. He does car design, right? Then we will do a workshop. He's modest and hasn't said it, and I haven't said it in the presentation because there's very little time. But you have just won the second Golden Compass 10 days for a project that you haven't showed me, which is a very interesting project done a while ago with Giulio Giacchetti of these elements for which you have thought for. These are some covers for piping systems, the ones you have in the sidewalks, and they have done some patterns for these. And this is another Compasso d'Oro was for Moscardino, 2001. How can you win a Golden Compass? So I think the nice thing is the experience of this Compasso d'Oro, the pleasure of my mom, she's super happy, and every time I say, hi mom, I want another one. But besides that, it makes you understand that you're actually moving in the right direction, you're heading in the right direction, and things make sense. And Julia and I were a bit, I don't know, we confessed each other because we all had other projects. I had these glasses, and he did some things for Moleskine and Lamp for Foscarini, and they told us to win the Compass, the Golden Compass, with a project of 2006 that was then produced after very many years for Techno Pro. Well, we put so much time to pull out our ego, and our individualism. Also my mom said at a certain point, she said, "Are you Giulia or Matteo? You guys are always together, all journalists, Ragni. It was as if we were like at one unique person." And therefore, also the idea of remaining friends and having our two individualities, each and every one with one's attitudes, what's our path. And then all of a sudden, like, this was a surprise for both of us, where after very many years, we found ourselves once again, Golden Compass 2001 together, and another one after so many years. And I see this as a sign. Well, first of all, we have understood we have to do another project together if we want to win another Golden Compass, but we're working towards the Nobel. We're always aiming high. And the idea is that of generosity, the fact of sharing of human experiences as well. If we would have been on our own, we wouldn't have had Moscardino and not even these covers for the pipelines. Well, basically, our world is very individualist, and I do realize in studios, and everyone tells me that when they do interviews, there is this presence, which is a character that is very, very good, but very anonymous. The nice thing of being designer is that you can express your humanity without thinking of profit. I do not want to buy a new car, actually. I do not have this, well, the fact that being together, but in our individuality, not losing our own ego, which is definitely there, we cannot hide it. Of course, who is a designer wants to change things and wants to be in front line. He cannot stand behind, but being together helps. And in fact, as I was telling you, we do this workshop together at campus, like a summer camp, basically in Pesaro, where with 10 designers we will be working in the middle of nothing, basically, on projects of TobeUs, and I could actually do so many. I've done so many cars and everything, but the nice thing is to share with others, and each and every one has an antenna and a loudspeaker to carry on a project. Are there any questions? You asked me a question. Why did you ask me a question? They had to ask questions, not you. Or you just broke the ice. They're shy. Are you hungry, guys? That's why.
Devo rifare la microfono. Ok, no, siccome lei parla del momento giusto per fare le cose nella vita.
Yeah, ask it. So since you were speaking about the right moment to do things in life, and there's always this right moment, right? When is the right moment to propose to a brand something that follows with the philosophy or against the philosophy?
No, ti voglio la sua opinione.
So it's a rhetorical question you're asking, since you have your own opinion. But as Nino Manfredi was saying, every moment is the right one. I mean, there is no moment. I believe that we need to study a lot, and we have to be not designers at the real beginning. You need to be psychologists. You have to be... how do you call those guys that predict, like meteorologists, right? You need to understand where the world is heading, and sometimes we make mistakes. I mean, look at that shelf. I mean, I thought that was an excellent project, and it lasted 3 years with some investments that were enormous of molds and everything. Levy and I, we have no regrets, because that's nature. Nature is generous. It doesn't do one only seed. A tree doesn't do only one seed. It's millions. I mean, in the spring, I wish I would live in the desert, because I'm allergic to pollen, and how much pollen is there around? And nature has to be generous, and we have to be generous as well. Don't worry, they copy, they steal. Who cares? You have to be generous. Every time you transfer this kind of optimism, which is not being inconsiderate. It's tangible, and brands want to experiment. They want to leave their maybe origins or this. They want to avoid to reduce their profits. They want to avoid all these things, and therefore it's a right moment to find a contact. I do not want to be a priest here now preaching something, but you need to have a good relation with the entrepreneurs. The great brands are made by people who have attitudes that are close to yours or not. Well, sometimes I get along with people and I work with brands that are very, very big, or sometimes, we don't like each other. So basically, I can't wait to finish the project. There is an enormous company that I work for, but I really can't stand them. There's no feeling that I have with Doriano, which is an artisanal company, him and the two sons of his. So basically, the fact that designers should not be designers of products, but, probably my friends, well, I don't really I'm not interested how these are made, actually. I'm actually interested what can I say with this project. Even if I put a small doubt in a grandmother, crazy grandmothers that always buy these small toys for the kids, well, actually, I'm happy if she buys something like this. Just to close, like usual, I answer these questions speaking about tons of other things, but actually, every moment is correct to enter in like the same tuning with entrepreneurs, because designers break your balls. They send your project and want royalties and want to be paid and want this and want that. I mean, working with the companies and not for companies, well, I mean, it's as if designers are like the people there, at the at the stoplight when you stop with your car and they want to wash your window shield and they say, hey, I want some money, I want some money. They're like beggars. So they bring their chairs there. We see tons of these chairs. But have you seen the catalog? Very wood doesn't tell you anything. No, you come in aluminum. Someone send me a shelf. But if they're doing chairs, why the heck are you sending me a shelf? Maybe you have to calm down, relax before you send an email. Go see exactly with who do you want to relate. Every example that I always give you is, if you fall in love with this girl, right? You will be nice, very beautiful, and give her a flower, right? It's spring, and you say, hey, do you want to fuck me, fuck me, fuck me? No, come on. You would never ask something like that. I mean, if she even wants to stay with me, you wouldn't ask all the others to fuck you, right? Maybe just her, right? Maybe not being a bit vulgar, but basically this is exactly what I'm trying to say,
Come hai fatto dopo di tanti anni di lavoro per trovare la maniera di fare prodotti che sono bravi?
After so many years of work, how do you find the way of doing products which are nice, but also sending a message between the object and the humanistic accent in the objects? Because that is not something that is common or easy in design, in the companies as well. I want to know because I believe it's very important to communicate like the human being dimension. I always think of this cartoon that for me it's very, very beautiful. It's something on, it's like a penguin that is doing a surfing. His name is Cody. Like a surfing competition. Have you ever seen it? I don't know, it's called Surf Up, Wipe Out, I don't know. Look at this cartoon. It's a penguin that does a surf competition, basically. And I always think of this because this guy is a penguin, okay? He wants to do things and wants to create his own. There's this Big Zed, which is an old penguin who is now, there's another better penguin than him and everything. And then there's his friend, a chicken. And this chicken, I don't know, it's a bit drug addict. I mean, he's always drunk and he's always walks on this surfing board, and this chicken always wins, even if he's a drunk guy. And rather, the penguin never know why the chicken always wins. I'm telling you this story not because I don't have an answer. I mean, I'm like this. I mean, a bit not very scientific, actually. Sometimes also in my studio we laugh because there's a collaborator of mine that he has this mania of doing this American studios where there are 200 people that give you the method and tell you exactly design, you have to do this, the research. Well, honestly, when you make me see these things there, the X, the Y, or whatever, the market and whatever, those graphs that you do, everyone does those, right? There are these things that you need to do because marketing says, oh, okay, so we went up there and down there, we want to go there, but the like positioning maps and graphs and everything. But honestly, I don't know how to do those. And when you come and speak about IDEO, Frog, and all these, which are studios incredible that make a lot of money, tons and loads, but nice project, but I can't really understand what they do. Because Moscardino originates from an idea, let's do something that people steal. Since Matter B would cost, now, Matter B, everything is Matter B. But at the time, in 99, you would say, Matter B, what is Matter B? Matter B was a bioplastic, biodegradable, that you throw it in compost and 40 days it disappears. At the times it looks like kryptonite, that of Superman. What's Matter B? It costs a lot of money, so we did it small for that reason, because it would use very little material. But we didn't do any kind of marketing researches, or I don't want to break down the figure of the designer nowadays, humanistic, but I always have these sentences in mind, of Magistretti, I'd never had the pleasure of meeting him, but we've studied him, right? He's a great architect, a Milanese, very Milanese actually. The ones, he used to teach in London, Royal College. He used to play golf. I mean, he was a guy who definitely enjoyed life, right? And he said, if you want to be designers, if your friends, if your sons and daughters want to be designers, have them do classic studies. But he used to say, since you're a historian, you can confirm this, but the fact of being so famous, Italian design is designed by architects, because there is this idea of humanistic studies, not specialized. But I don't know, maybe you'll say no, but to me this thing has sounded like that. I do not know how to do anything. Actually, if tomorrow I should close my studio because, I don't know, there's a flood, I will send a CV everywhere, but no one will hire me, I'm sure. Where can I go? I do not know how to use Rhino, but actually I use a Rhino as if I was a kid. Illustrator, what do you use in design? I have no clue. Sometimes I do, they tell me that I'm doing other people's work, I change the colors and I do a mess. I mean, I do not know how to use these. I want to close with this conference with this, so you can call me to do a free course, here. Well, the nice thing of this job is that you do a bit of everything. You do the covers for the drainage, and then you do cookies, and then you do cars, and then you do sunglasses, or glasses in general. I go home, I'm happy. There is not one day of my life I say, oh God, I have to go work. And we are very lucky, Think of the guys who have to, I don't know, every day they're shoveling trash or whatever. I haven't answered for sure your question, but okay, it doesn't matter. Okay, thank you very much. I have intention to have a very long life, and therefore we can see each other in another time. Okay, thank you very much to Matteo Ragni, and we can't even proceed too much. It's 8 o'clock and it's late and everything, so thank you very much.